Alright. Things are actually working. It's hard to believe things are actually reliably working again. I just got so used to things being awful. Particularly around anything internet related. But anyway, we're back to Kerbal and back to our career mode file that I missed out on 2 good opportunities yesterday. So I need to make something to go and recapture that. But I'm going to do the boring part first while everyone goes and tries to join. If that's anybody at all. So, we need to make more efficient rockets. It's a thing we like to do. Make efficient rockets. Alright, this one's already pretty much set. I think I am just going to take these little twitch engines off and override this one. The Decurion medium. Now we need to replace the Centurion 1. This is significantly more expensive. Our Decanus launcher, our cheapest launcher, is the most per ton. About 2,000, a little over, 2,000 funds per ton to orbit. Goes down significantly as we get higher to the 9-ton limit, and then things just crash back down and then go back up again when we get to the Decurion 2. So I want to try and fix this gap. So for starters, I think the Optio might be the easy one to make a new version of. Realistically, a Optio medium. This is really what this should be, is an Optio medium. Let's see. Okay, now we fix the Optio Heavy, which we're going to delete the original file for. And we want a 4-booster version of this. Keep those nice and tucked to the side so we can just keep those 2 towers. Looks pretty level. Excellent. And we need the new cones. Oh, this one. This might be at a slightly off angle. Oh, hard to tell, isn't it? That should be fine. I think it's okay. Oh, you know what it is? It's because I'm not putting this in the right place. There we go. Yep, now it's even. Alright, so this will be the heavy. And if the math I did on this is anywhere near right, it should roughly be a 12-ton launcher. So 15,065 funds. Oh. 14,665 funds, 12 tons, 1,222 funds per ton to orbit. Not bad. Not bad at all. So this will take the place of the Optio Heavy. The original Optio Heavy. And this is going to step on the toes of the Centurion, which is intentional. So significantly cheaper, almost by 300 funds per ton, than the current Centurion one. And there's a reason for that. I'm going to be getting rid of the Centurion lineup. I'm creating a new Centurion lineup, Centurion 2. And when I was trying to think of how I could replace the 18-ton launcher, a couple things came to mind. Number one, the Decurion 2, if I strip the boosters off of it completely, this should actually probably manage 18 tons just fine. In fact, it could probably handle 19 tons. So 21,950 is the cost. This should just be the Decurion 2. So we're looking at 1219.45 funds per ton. So in line with everything else we've been putting up here, and cheaper than the Centurion 1 medium. So that kind of goes a little way into explaining why I'm doing this. So that should close that gap somewhat. Then, let's see. One of the other thoughts that came to mind was the Optio. So the Optio, it's not the most efficient, actually. But what I was thinking, where the Optio Medium is, or was, one of our most efficient, now the Optio Heavy is one of the most efficient, especially in the early lightweight category. I was thinking, what would happen if I just strap two of these together? I was like, it's a shame I can't strap two of these together. Well, I guess I kind of can, can't I? So if I wanted to do that, I'd have to start over. I would need a new second stage that has about double the fuel capacity and about double the thrust, which conveniently there's tanks in the 2.5 meter variety that offer exactly that. So these would be perfect as a second stage replacement. Well, and there's still the first stage. And what I realized, if I take one of these shorter tanks, which actually I might... Yeah, you know, no. We're going to keep this up for the first one. If we take this tank, put that on with it, this gives us exactly twice as much fuel as we have on the first stage of the Optio. So then we need an engine that handles twice the Bobcat. Well, there's a really easy way to get an engine that does twice what the Bobcat does, and that's to use 2 Bobcats. Perfect. So this would be a good start. This is basically just a double Optio. So this would be our new Centurion 2. This would be a 10-ton launcher, which wouldn't make it the most efficient. But we're going somewhere with this. Oh, and actually, cancel. I forgot. Support towers. Throw those on. This will be the Centurion 2. So obviously a downgrade from the original Centurion, but much cheaper, much more cost effective. So now we need the stretched version. What are you doing, cat? So we need the larger second stage. It does just bother me that's there we go. That's lined up at least. Alright, now we'd start working on a Centurion 2 replacement. This would be a 14-ton instead of a 15-ton, if my math was right. All this is kind of subject to change. This is all just counting on my earlier estimates, which could be totally wrong. Not going to rule that out. There we go. So if that goes as intended, this should be a 14-ton launcher. So Centurion 2. Oh, and I forgot to... Well, darn. Forgot to do that calculation. So 1249 funds per ton. Not bad. Not bad at all. So I think I do need to get rid of the old version of the Decurion. Decurion 1. The Centurion 1. Clean this up. Okay, and then we need a Centurion Heavy, which would be about a 17-ton launcher. So an alternate, really, to the Decurion. They should be that's kind of weird. They should be very close to one another. So to do this one, I want 4 boosters. Once again, doing that little side pattern here. Looks like I managed to get that one a little lower. There we go. Now it's off to one side. Okay. There we go. Aerodynamic cones. There we go. And we'll call this a 17-ton launcher just because I'm not entirely confident about this one. I'm not sure how much the boosters actually help. But in theory, I mean, this is the Optio medium. Just double the engines. Just got 2 of them. Double the fuel in the first stage. Double the engines on the second stage, double the fuel in the second stage, double the boosters. So it's just everything's doubled. So theoretically, should be an 18-ton launcher. I'm going to assume it's a 17-ton launcher. Now I'll probably need to change this Decurion to medium, because I'm gonna end up with 2 different versions of the medium: a 2 booster and a 4 booster, and then a heavy that'll be 3 of that common core in the middle. So that might change up a little bit. But now everything's, in terms of price-wise, it all makes sense. Actually gonna get rid of this lunar extension thing too. I don't need that. So we start off with a 3-ton launcher, which is our least cost-effective. We go to a 5-ton that's much better, 7-ton that's slightly better, a 9-ton that's much better. Centurion 2 kind of drops back to a little worse off, but not by much. And then, again, more cost-effective, little back, more, little back. So it's kind of back and forth, but at least in terms of cost, everything is, you know, top to bottom, organized. There's nothing outside of its price range, basically, in terms of effectiveness. So that's good. And now that I got a wider variety of launchers, I can start working on a craft that we're going to use to knock out 2 of our contracts, the ones that we screwed up last night. Or that I screwed up last night. So we're going to take a hex core. Although I do have a rove mate. I just want to see, what does the rove mate have? Oh, and there's different versions of it? Oh, no one told me this. Snipe. There we go. I was trying to lock it there. So, scans enhanced while landed on ground, splash down, or standing by to launch. That's good, I guess. CurbNet has scan modes for biome and terrain. Only has stability assist for SAS. So, it is definitely made to be a rover. Obviously, by the name. But in the meantime, we're going to take a hex core. And I don't have to worry about trying to bring this thing to a station or anything like that. I just need to worry about getting it to the surface of Minmus and back. With hopefully a crazy amount of... Let's actually change this up a little bit. We need a crazy amount of ore. At least crazy to try and land with. So we need this to be light other than the ore itself. Okay, let's put... You know what, let's not even do those. Let's just put batteries. The cheap batteries. Okay. That's fine. We can put a pair of solar panels. We're going to be trying to land this thing so we could use the repackables just for the sake of it. And we can put it looks kind of goofy, doesn't it? So we can put the antenna there, but that's not really going to work. If I tuck it way down under there, nope. It's too long. Alright, we'll have to find a place for it. We are going to put a big old parachute at the top to help with this thing. Put one of these down. This is where we can put our antenna. Maybe not. Still going to hold off on that because we also need more parachutes. We learned this the hard way yesterday. That's not a good place to put those. Okay. I'm rescinding my plan too many times here. So we want possibly a 2-stage system. Let's put the drogues up there. The main's right there. Just cut it down to one of these. We only really need the one. Okay, and then for engines, A skiff? Is that going to be a good idea? Probably not, huh? Do the cheetah. Okay, we need enough holding tanks to bring back 500 ore, which would then be 7 of these. 7 radial tanks. Would have to be 7, wouldn't it? Wouldn't be like an even number. Let's put 3 of them down. And let's put 4 of them down. Too silly? Too silly. Silly hats only. Could do a pair of these again. Now let's cut this down to 2 of these. Let's put 2 of these thusly. Let's put some more parachutes on them. That. So we have excessive parachutes. Still gonna put the cones on the bottom. Okay, and then this is going to need to land itself when we get back to Kerbin. Under an absurd amount of parachutes, so I'm sure this will be fine. Now my question is, how much Delta V does that have? The real question is, how much does it have when it's fully loaded? So it'll have enough to get back into orbit. And not much else. So we need to stretch this a little bit. Oh, I know what I can do. I was going to try and figure this out afterwards, but I might as well just do this now. Do the heat shield. A separator. Just realized it's going to cut my fuel off, isn't it? Yep, sure is. I suppose I would be lucky enough just to... it's like it's getting stuck on the... So what I could do, just to make this a little ridiculous, which, I mean, everything I make is a little bit ridiculous, we could do, yep, something like that. I mean, that's gonna burn up and blow up, most likely. So I'm not sure how I feel about that one. This is just going to be a really weird craft. Because, you know, a lot of things I make are weird, actually. Used to be a significant thing to say, but now it's just getting redundant. Here's an idea. Let's just throw some tanks under this thing. Make it look silly. Then we can do that. Perfect. Alright. Engine will be getting fueled. I have slightly more delta V. Okay, now. This is already probably heavy. Oh, yes, it certainly is. Although that's with a fully loaded tank. Still 15 tons. So we need to be keeping this to a minimum from this point on, but probably will not be able to help myself. So we're going to put a separator there. We're going to put a much bigger tank. Like this. Put a poodle to try and land on. And we're going to need some landing struts. Big ones. We want them to be level. Which just looks strange. Anyway. It's a big old landing gear. And then we need all the stuff to mine with. So we need a pair of the big drill-o-matics. That's gonna be a waste of money. Let's not use those. Let's use the tiny ones, which won't be able to reach the ground. Okay, that's problematic. Okay, let's do this then. Let's land on those legs, right? And then let's deploy some smaller legs. That'll only go up to the engine. So then these retract, those stay out, keeps it level, drills can reach. Beautiful. This isn't crazy. Hey, Will. It's always good to get somebody new on. Alright. So this monstrosity is already way past what I can launch. That's a problem. Alright. So knowing that I will not be able to launch this, what I could do is expand the insanity was the first piece I put down? We're going to reroute this. There we go. Okay. So, as I said, expanding on the insanity, what we need to do is put a separator here. Put an engine plate. Put a docking port. A little bit of extension here just so it can reach a little easier. Alright. Wow, okay. That is not doing what I wanted it to do. Flip this over. I do look sexy, thank you. So what we'll do... It reminds me of the old days on dating sites. It's hard to argue with that. Alright, now I'm going to change this to a quad +1. Put some spark engines on it. Move those outward. Yeah, that should do. It's going to look a little wonky, but once I take the version I want, it won't be too bad. There we go. Alright, so we'll have engines, we'll have a docking port at the back. We are going to launch probably with this top tank empty. This tank empty. This tank empty. There we go. Now this is... This is now about the right weight. Just turn down... Oop. Turn down the ablator. We don't need the insane amount of ablator that these come with, so that does help reduce the weight as well. Okay. So now all we gotta do is get this to orbit. We can put the Equus on the back and use the Equus to, well, we can get this to station actually, probably refuel this first. So we'll have to launch a tank up, refuel it, and that'll be the boosting section to get this to Minmus. Because we need to return the same vehicle we land with, as well as the ore. So I'm going to try and do both at the same time. So this will shroud that. I don't think I need to bother with a fairing. Probably should have a fairing, but we're going to go with it. And then we have the Decurion to try to launch this puppy. And this will be our first test of the Decurion with this ridiculously expensive payload. So let's set up all the engines we need. We need the main engine and towers to fire first, along with the 4 solid rocket boosters. How is this not overweight for our pad? That's just amazing. Alright, then we need the second stage separator, which I don't even know where that is. Yep, there we go. And the second stage engine. We'll have to drop in one thing in the middle here to get the booster separation. Andrew informed me of what you are doing. I will touch your brain. Make $20 the hard way. Alright. Now, these will separate out. That'll go. This will separate, hopefully we won't even need this. Hopefully this will just be maneuvering. I'm not going to bother with RCS because we can actually put RCS on the vehicle that's going to come and pick this up. We don't need this. We do need that, which would be for that engine. Okay. So those go together. This is turning into an interesting chat. Alright, now that would activate then the Ascent engine. This would separate. Then we'd have the drogues. Then we'd have the main chutes. Okay. Alright. I think this is ready. This is totally crazy, but I think it's ready. So we just need to get this to orbit. We'll get a refueler up to dump fuel into it. And then we will use probably the Equus to come pick it up and send it to Minmus. So we're going to definitely hit some auto strut on this, because if we do not auto strut, this whole thing will probably just do absolute craziness. Alright, SAS. Off we go. With this absolutely absurd vehicle. So we're going to ride out these solids as long as possible. Get to 10,000 meters. Begin a prograde turn. Start working on getting this thing to orbit. And boom goes the dynamite, correct. That's basically what I think is going to happen. I just expect this to just kaboom. I didn't even bother to put any stabilizer fins on this at all. Probably would have been a good idea in this one's case, because I am creating a lot of aerodynamic resistance at the top. So I'm just going to be careful. Yep, I'm creating a lot of aerodynamic resistance at the top. Careful that we're only turning as much as I want it to turn. We're getting a little bit of rotation, which is normally a pain in the butt, although this shouldn't be too bad. Actually, not looking so bad. For such an absolutely crazy looking design. This is getting me most of the way up. Yeah, actually, pretty much to the altitude I needed to start doing the turn at. Final turn. Second stage, the J2. Should have no problem finishing this off. Yeah, actually none at all. Can pretty comfortably aim down, start driving our periaps up. It's looking like we'll get to orbit. So that's a good test run for the K-20, or I keep calling it the K-24, but it's a Decurion now. It's since been renamed. And I forgot retro boosters. Crap. Space junk. Always the space junk. It's fine. I think I got an idea of what I'm gonna do. I'm always forgetting the retro boosters for the second stage. That's something I forget every darn time, and I end up creating a lot of space junk that way. Alright, so I'm going to drive the Periaps to just barely short of a safe altitude. So I'm going to make us get a little short of getting to orbit on purpose. So right about there. We've got time till apogee. What we're going to do is we're going to take this fuel. We're going to dump it into our empty tank. I am prograde. Oh, and I used a separator instead of a... Oh my god. At least it's all gonna decay in orbit. Okay. So those two pieces of space junk will decay and fall back to Kerbin. When we get to here, we are going to raise our orbit to a safe altitude. And then the craft will stay in orbit, but the junk won't. Oh, and before this becomes a problem, probably a good idea to extend the solar panels. Okay. We can warp much closer to the maneuver node. So 3 seconds away from the maneuver, I'm going to hit full throttle because it's going to take us 6 seconds to make the speed adjustment. Alright, safe orbit, circular orbit. So easy to dock with, and it is now safe. And the junk behind it will burn up in the atmosphere. Perfect. Things actually went smoothly. I feel like I'm kind of dooming myself to a Kraken strike, but, you know, it could be fine. Oh, I cannot believe that just went that well. So now we need to launch a fuel tank up. This is not getting saved. This is just such a crazy idea. I don't think that's a good idea to save that. Alright, so... I really don't need that big a fuel tank, I don't think, to fill it up. So that's 405. 198, like 600. Maybe we should have kept track of how much fuel capacity is currently empty on that thing. Probably one of these tanks worth. Already at 10 tons, so I might actually get a chance to test out a different vehicle as well. If I keep it at 12 tons, I can test the Optio Heavy. Or I could test the new Centurion. If it ends up being a little heavier than that. So, let's see. Realistically, I don't even need to put an engine on this. Because I could just reuse the second stage engine. Let's see. Are going to need monoprop. $120 is probably going to be enough. Let's just put this one here. Okay, then we need the computer core. Another hex core. Another inline reaction wheel. Another communitron, wherever that is. Okay, then we'll put that at an angle because we need to put some thrusters on so I can actually make the docking attempt. Some batteries, of course. Solar panels. This one we can use the cheaper solar panels. Actually, I'm going to put them in the bay here so they are safe during the launch. Because I'm not going to bother with the fairing for this one either. What I'm going to do is take that front port. I'm going to put a nose cone over it. Put a single Sepratron rocket on it. Put a separator. Bingo. So that'll eject that once we are out of the atmosphere. And this is how much? 12.5 tons. We just happen to have a 12-ton launcher we want to be testing. Can I... if I can make it lighter at all. I know that's going to be a very small change, but I just want to see. 4 tons. What happens if I just 12.2, 12.1? Well, I guess actually, you know what? Should be fine, because it'll be burning that fuel, getting itself to orbit anyway. I'll cut off this fuel so it can't use this tank. And we'll see what happens. Take both booster sets, put them on the first stage along with the tower separation and the main engine. And both sets of boosters separate. Then we need to go second stage. And then we drop the nose cone. Alright. Should be able to send this up to refuel that. And then we'll get the Equus refueled and go and collect this to bring off to Minmus. So we want to set that as our target. I want to time warp until that comes back around into a good launch position, which is going to be night again, which is annoying. I end up doing a lot of launches at night, it seems. Alright. Here goes. Back up to full throttle. New version of the Optio Heavy. Hopefully getting us all the way to orbit without wasting too much of the tank's fuel. Hopefully none of it, actually. Hopefully this overachieves. The Earth is doomed. Seems a little random. Probably true, but... Alright. Here we go. Wow, actually a really good apogee already. Let's level this out and start driving horizontal velocity. Nose cone can go. Give this a nice flat trajectory. That should have exactly enough delta V to get to orbit here. Separate and start driving this now. So we are relatively close to the apogee. Already in space as well. which helps. Just deploy our solar panels. Make sure we have power. Keep working towards orbital velocity. Letting our original craft kind of catch up to us here. So we are not quite moving as fast yet. They're just catching up to us. Actually looking pretty good here. So I think that's 2 of our new launchers verified in one go. Possibly just a little light on this. Might run out of fuel just before orbit. Oh, made it just fine. Get it up to the intersect. Okay, that was just the point at which we stopped benefiting from prograde. Let's do just a little bit of maneuvering here. We got just a little bit of a descending node correction to do, so a inclination change. So that's fine and dandy. A little bit of a timing change, so radial change. There we go. And we've got enough fuel on this stage to pull that off. I also didn't put retros on this. Okay, no, that should be fine, because this doesn't separate off. We're good. We're good. I was worrying for no reason. I always forget the retros. And right there. Probably need to thrust limit this down quite a bit so I can actually pull off a semi-intelligible burn here. There we go. Boom. What's our actual intersect? 0.1? Yeah, 0.1's fine. Alright, now we can go back to tracking target. We can do retrograde to target. And this will be great. We'll be doing just 33.5 meters per second difference. We have 42 meters per second of fuel, so our fuel is going to run out basically as we come to a total stop. Let's warp in at least most of the way. I'm going to kind of tinker with the engine, make sure it's at full thrust. This is 2 things in a row that just went absurdly smooth. So I'm waiting for things to go horribly wrong. Alright, we're making our approach. And really close here. Not bad at all. So just the last of the station keeping. We are just 60 meters off from our vehicle over there. We have just 8 meters per second of fuel left. So, had exactly enough fuel to get this tank up there fully fueled. Look at that. Just fanciness. Alright, we need to try and line up to this thing. So we are going to aim directly at it while we are still maintaining our station keeping position. We are then going to switch to it. We are going to set that as our target. Make sure we're aiming directly away from it. So this rear port is aiming directly at the rear port over there. This is really hard to control with such a small reaction wheel on such a big vehicle, but it's fine. No biggie. Somehow we'll manage. Okay, so now this is aiming directly away from the tank. Tank is still pretty much aiming directly at it. We'll enable RCS and go to docking mode, linear. And we'll kind of head for it. Little messy, but it worked. Alright, let's start refueling all the stuff that we left unfueled. Hopefully that leaves us just a little bit of fuel left in the transfer vehicle for it to deorbit itself. If not, we'll just use monoprop to help it along anyway. Definitely a trick I recommend. Anytime you're worried about launching something that's going to be really heavy, just launch it unfueled. Refuel it in orbit. It's really not that bad to do it. Just only took me, what, an extra couple minutes there. Okay, so that's ascent stage is now fully fueled. We already had a fully fueled section there and fully fueled section there. We used a little bit of fuel there. We can just go ahead and replenish. Wow. That little stage still has a decent amount of fuel. Not sure if it's worth trying to boost the orbit of this just a little bit first. possibly? Just to make it a little easier for, well, wouldn't actually make it that much easier for the other craft to come pick it up. That's just one more sanity check, make sure all the fuel is full. Which it does appear to be. And I guess I'll just, Well, let's see if we can get this to the station. Let's look at it that way. Because I want to... Let's just quickly disable this stuff. Lock that fuel tank. Lock this fuel tank. Lock this one. Lock this one. Lock this one. This one. This one. Okay. So all the fuel tanks should be locked. Okay. I only have 243 meters per second of delta V. Which is not going to be enough if I wanted to use this to really boost this thing's orbit any significant amount. That sucks. Guess I'm getting spoiled. Things just did go exactly as I intended them to, so... Just gonna worry first about deorbiting this thing then. Whoop. Wrong way. There we go. So fuel tank has done its job. Wow, we have a ton of monoprop. I probably could have, yeah. I probably could have gotten away with the deorbiting then. Okay. Full throttle on the retrograde burn. Waste of a fuel tank, really. Like, we're almost bringing this to a dead stop. All right. Let's go back to Space Center before it makes me watch its descent. I don't care to watch it. Now I need a fuel tank for the station itself, so we can refuel the Equus. So for that we need a very big tank. Let's see. Do I have a large tank saved? I have this one. The 24-ton fuel tank. I think I figured out before that the RCS on this was kind of weak. Ah, well. Let's find out. Let's roll with it. Took a little bit of monoprop out of it just to make sure it is not overly heavy. And we don't need that much monoprop in the station, I don't think. Okay. Grab another Decurion 2. That should get us back at it, no problem. Let's check our staging. Boosters, main engine, towers. Separate both sets of boosters. Drop the fairing. Separate the second stage and deorbit it. Activate the engine on the vehicle. And then the second stage needs to go down here-ish. I could probably drop the fairing before I activate the second stage on this one. Okay, here we go. All right, now we want to launch the Jebediah Memorial Station. So once again, we'll be playing the waiting game. We're going to let it get a little past optimal launch position, because we're going to launch into a lower orbit, so it'll be much easier to catch up to it than to let it catch up to us. Right about there should be good. Alright, off we go. Fuel tanks are always the interesting payload for launch vehicles. Not for the actual mission, but for the launch vehicle itself, it's a good way to stress it. Okay. Now carefully go and do our turn. It's actually quite difficult to do because this is much more sturdy than, or more stable than the last one. Last time we launched the 24 was the Decurion was very awkward 24-ton payload. So right now, Apogee's actually looking pretty good. So we're going to shallow out a lot. Second stage. Second stage has his work cut out for it, that's for sure. So the J2 engine becoming one of my favorites for second stage now for heavy payloads. It is lighter than a Poodle engine, with more thrust, still very efficient in vacuum. The downside is just its cost. Actually aim down a little bit. Now, if things don't go well, the tank itself does have a decent engine to finish out its orbit. But it's really made for the rendezvous burns. So hopefully, orbit itself goes smoothly. We seem to be getting there. Just aim prograde at this point. Might need to aim up just a little. Or I might have just timed this out perfectly. Yep, looks like it's the latter. Nice circular orbit. Actually worked out pretty good. Still a little bit of fuel left in. Send our solar panels. Alright, things continuing to go smoothly. Now we need to set up a maneuver node to get a rendezvous with the station. We'll be catching up quickly at this altitude. Yep, there we are. That's very good. We just have to worry about inclination. So I can kind of cheat a little bit if I want to and get just the descending node to that spot. Retrograde to balance it back to where it was. Wow, why is that not working? Instantly better. Okay. That's curious. Maybe I really wasn't bringing it up to the right altitude then. Thought I was, but perhaps I was not. start with that maneuver and correct it more from there if we need to. So we'll still be keeping on this second stage for our maneuvers. That's pretty handy. So a 3-second burn. Just have to wait until we're about 2 seconds away from the maneuver node, and then I'll start that. Okay, that should do. Now, is the big difference really the ascending node? Okay, that's annoying how little I have to do that maneuver. Well, I guess that really is what was holding it up. So we got a very tiny maneuver. I want to change the thrust limiter way down so we can time this a little easier. Only at 10% thrust. And we can time warp into there. So 4-second burn, we'll just wait till we're about 2 seconds away from the maneuver node. Looks pretty good to me. 0.4 separation. Don't want to get too much closer than that because we do have some very heavy hardware here and I don't want to accidentally smash into anything. So with a massive station like Jebediah Kerman Station, I'm not going to chance it. So we can now aim retrograde the target. Throttle up to full on our limiter. And we can time warp nice and close to our closest point of intercept here. A little bit of grinding on the computer as it tried to figure out the station in its physics load here. So it said 400 meters is where we get closest. I'm going to try and judge this one by eye. Okay, we're now station keeping. Turn ourselves around. Use what little fuel we have left in the second stage to try and get us close to the station. I'm going to aim a little bit under it, just so we don't have any issue with stopping in time. What about there? Looks good. Just a little bit of thrust. Yeah, 5 should be fine. Flip over to retrograde. I am definitely going to cut the second stage off before I attempt to dock, though. Even though we do have a little bit of fuel in there. It would be a little awkward with that big tank at the back trying to get these RCS thrusters to work as intended. So I am going to have to ditch that. And we're going to try and go for this docking port right here. So I'm going to try and get us lined up for that. Or at least pretty close to lined up for that. And then the Equus up here, we can refuel. And we can send it on its way to go pick up and then bring the landing vehicle all the way to Minmus. There we go, looking good. All right. Well, we'll aim orbital prograde. Okay. Okay, that jettisons the second stage back down to Kerbin. Back to tracking to target. There we go, back to station keeping. Alright. RCS off. Go to rotation mode. Line us up for this dock right here. What am I doing? Figure out which way is up on this thing. Sometimes that's a challenge. Okay, so we want to be facing right about here. Good. Right about there. Okay. I think that's almost in alignment. And the rest should be translation control. There we go. Trying to trust my nav ball here. can now see the prograde marker, which is very helpful. Easiest way to dock. Be heading for it. Have your prograde marker on the opposite side of the target target node on the nav ball from your artificial horizon. Oh, and I need to roll this into the correct orientation for the solar panels as well. Looking good for lining up. Looking good, actually. Nice and smooth. I like when things go according to plan. That was a smooth dock, if I do say so myself. So now, which I do, let's refuel the Equus. It seems like that's exactly enough fuel to get this thing going. And just enough probably to deorbit the tank. I'll leave it on there for now just for the monoprop, so we maybe can use the monoprop. Probably some of the monoprop will get used to deorbit the tank. Because if I'm right, it looks like we're going to have maybe like 30 fuel left in the tank. Yeah. Odd that it's short on oxidizer. It's kind of weird. I don't really know how that happens. But alright. Equus is now fully loaded. Probably still has a ton of monoprop. But, like I was just saying, we do have monoprop on the refueler here. So I might as well use it. I'm actually getting kind of near my cutoff for the night. And I'm getting tired again. Internal clock knows what's going on. Alright, so everything's refueled. I don't think I'm going to launch the Equus from the station yet. Because the other spacecraft still has some catching up to do. I do want to see, though... Does our fuel tanker debris deorbit completely? It sure does. Or at least it looks like it does. Let's make sure of that. Or else it's something I'll have to tweak on the design. Perhaps of 9,000 meters. Yep, definitely this is going to deorbit itself. Very cool. I might have to watch those other two. Although I probably won't do that. I'll probably just terminate them. I'll check and see if they get into the atmosphere. If they get into the atmosphere, I will allow myself to terminate them. Yep, definitely gets in the atmosphere for that one. Let's make sure I have the right stuff. I'm pretty sure I do. I mean, it can only be those two things, right? Sanity check. Yep. And of course that's the separator. Back to the tracking station. Wipe those two things out because they both go into the atmosphere. And they will eventually decay. Unless it's Kerbal Space Program, and then as soon as you don't look at them, they go on rails. Oh, I still have all this stuff at the launch site in the desert. Let's probably recover those. We have a lot of debris out there, don't we? This thing's got a crazy trip. XJ6? I still have XJ6 debris? Oh my god. Still need to kill this thing off. This says it's on an escape trajectory out of Kerbin, but that's not true. It's weird. There we go. Suborbital trajectory. Terminate. Suborbital trajectory. Again. Terminate. Wow, don't know how that ended up there. Oh, this is, no, never mind. I was gonna say that's from the rover, but it is not from the rover. How did that end up in such a screwy... Wow. That is a messed up orbit. I'm just kind of curious, like, on some of this stuff now. Still have the 3.4 relay. Doing the whole retrograde orbit thing. That might be a nice, easy one to go and send a thing up to go and take down. 3.5 might be a little harder. Independent solar. Rescue tug debris. This was supposed to fall back to Kerbin. I don't understand. And that got kicked out on a weird plane too. Why are these not deorbiting? I'm very careful with the stuff that I send them in this, that the transfer stages burn up. Okay, it got out of physics range and didn't finish firing its rockets, and now that I just went in and zoomed in on it, it fired them in a weird way. That's not fair. That is totally not fair. So that one I'm allowing myself to delete, because that is stupid. I don't know why retro boosters would not fire to their completion. It's not how solid rockets work. So rescue tug debris is terminated. What about this other one that was on a weird trajectory? That should have been the same thing. Since that should be coming all the way from Minmus, I've been very careful about making sure that stuff gets sent back to Kerbin and blows up. But this one, I guess, did burn properly, so I'll have to figure out what happened there. Maybe it had a moon encounter and just kicked it back out into orbit. Most likely that's what happened. That's a shame. It actually has a tiny bit of fuel left over by the looks of it. It does. Oh well. Well, alright. I think that might do it for me today. I have to definitely cut off by 9. I'm tired. But not bad. Got to test out a couple new vehicles. Got to build a couple new vehicles. Have a lander for Minmus all squared away in orbit, fully fueled, ready for a transfer vehicle to send it on its way. And then we should get 2 contracts knocked out of the way with it. I'm excited now to have this all this setup finished up. That was too many ups. Might fix the Decurion 2 medium. Like I wanted to. Decurion 2. Dash 2. B. Let's do 2B. So that actually lets me do on this. One thing I actually forgot to do on there. What would... So let's see. No boosters gets me an 18-ton launcher when I did my math. So 4 boosters got me 24. So 2 would get me 22. Let me just guess. Call that a 22-ton launcher. Well, these little things are a little bit off, aren't they? Didn't realize I goofed that up. All right. So now we need to figure out the pricing on it. Let's see. 25,490 divided by... I'm going to stick with 22. No, that gives me kind of a low number, so I feel like that's going to be wrong. I'm going to say it probably is going to be a 21-ton, just based off of what I'm seeing. Yeah, that's probably what it is. Still a good number, but probably a 21 ton. Oh, and that... I'm stupid. That was a 4B. Hold on. This one's an easier one to deal with. So, wait a minute. We need to, first of all, fix that. That's centered. That's centered. They don't look like they're collectively centered. That's probably as good as I need it to be. Just looks like there's something kind of fucked up going on there. Pardon my French. Oh, one of those is like in more than the other. Oh. That's why it looks weird. Oh, that was not centered. There we go. Now everything looks lined up. Okay. So, now I need to slide everything down a little bit, though. Which is fine. There we go. Okay. Finally fixed it. That was driving me crazy. So now this is the Decurion 2. That's the 4 booster. Okay, now we take that same thing, take one set away, just like we did before, put one set back in the center. Still have the price up, so we get rid of the 2B. Now this is the 2B. Okay, Decurion 2. This is the 2B. So that's actually the most cost-effective one by the looks of it. At least, again, if my math is, and my expectations are correct. So this is actually a pretty good lineup. This is, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12, 14, 17, 18, 21, and 24. So all kind of ranges here are good and covered. This one I actually might be able to handle a little more than 17, but I don't know. I kind of feel like this should end up being a 15-ton launcher as well, but I'm suspicious of anything that falls below 1,200 funds per ton. Anything that falls below that I'm suspicious of, because I don't think there's really much you can do to make that happen in Kerbal with disposable rockets. But this is nice. I'm happy with this. I still got to figure out what to do about the Decanus. This is not on the same planet in terms of efficiency, or the Decanus 1 isn't. But I think just being a 3-ton rocket, there's really not much you can do to improve it at all. Like, I'm trying to think of even narrowing this down to just a flush tank design might maybe work, and maybe cut out this for a smaller engine type, like the Terrier. But I'm just gonna go through the fuel here. $11.25 fuel. So just real quick. I could make something cheaper for this. Minus 810, 315. So that would be 315 really would be like one of these and one of these. So that would be see what I could do with a flush tank design. Of course, I still need these twitch engines. I can't pull them off like I did with the Decurion, because this otherwise has no vernier and no gimbal, so would not end well. Would not have very good control. So I could do all that. We could drop this. Put a plate. Medium short. Throw a Terrier on. Alright, and that would make that 5,681 credits. Be the same fuel, same engine, pretty much the exact same thing, except the second stage would take longer to get to its orbit. I think, yeah, maybe it's a little less efficient. Yeah, it is a little less efficient for the Terrier than the Cheetah, but it shouldn't be that big a deal. Let's see, that would be a 3-ton launcher. It'd still be This would be 1893, so I mean, it'd be cheaper. It would actually be cheaper. But how much of that is just because I threw a different engine on? 5681. See, now I'm getting distracted. I was gonna end the stream, but I'm getting distracted. So let's see. I just want to see now. See, 5681 is what we're saying. We need to get close to or beat to see if this is just because I swapped things out for the engine. Because then I'll do that. I got no problem swapping out the engine. It is a little more expensive. So it's probably because of the tanks I'm using. So it would be cheaper just to have a little poop looking rocket. I mean, this should be worth it in my mind though, because it should be more stable having the long, thinner body there. I'll have to test that out tomorrow or something, or eventually, and see if it can just get away with just the Terrier engine. Because if that's the case, then that's probably the way to go. For now, I'm just going to do that one change. Change things slowly. Wait, without the towers, how much was it? 5846. Now this does actually have slightly more fuel too, like 15 units of fuel. I don't think that's really going to be a huge show-stopping difference from the other design, but you know, whatever. The big cost definitely was changing out that engine. So I'm going to save this as a Decanis 1E. E for economy. So it's cheaper. Yeah, by about 150 credits per ton. The Optio is still a while off. The Canis Heavy is still a while off as well, but those are very light craft once again. And this is a crew launcher, so I would not want to put a Terrier here for a crew launcher and just hope it's enough. So this, I'm probably going to let this one slide. I already kind of cheaped out in as many places as I think I can. The Optio, it's already pretty cheaped out. There's really not much else I could do to make that any cheaper. And like I said, the Decanis, at least I have this one. But that is definitely, launching stuff at 3 tons is a bad idea at this point. It's just inefficient to have a small launcher like that. Anyway, I spent a lot of time on vehicles today and not a lot of time on much else. Although I did get some good launches out of the way. So, I think that's going to be it. But if you want to see more, you could always go back and see our other streams, our past streams, down at the bottom at youtube.com/Jude I Called You Bro. I've got a big chunk of them that I am finally uploading to YouTube that I've been neglecting to do because I'm a bad man. But those will be on there shortly. And, of course, if you want to see our next stream instead, you can catch us pretty much every night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually runs till about 9. I'm cutting it off. I'm pretty strict today, but a lot of times it does run over. And after that's been said, really all there is